I'm WG and it's time we talk about neutral cards, about the strongest neutral cards in the entire game, cards you should be on the lookout for and what they can do for you. Though in life it sometimes is about the little things. If you haven't done it yet, you see this icon on the left side. It allows you to swap your home screen character by then changing the combatant. And if you wanted to, you could also preview the affinity images you unlock on level 10. But now let's get on with the video. One thing that's also very important is if you think I missed a neutral card and you found some really nice synergies, leave a comment down below explaining the name of the card and what it does, and that might just help out some other of us, protos, so we can all enjoy neutral cards together. What we have here was an in-game event that allowed me to pretty much look at all the most common of neutral cards as well as also the effect, because I don't yet have filled my neutral card Pokédex enough to showcase it in that variant, so I just thought, why don't we just use this opportunity here? So we'll be going from left to right and talking about the benefits or even, the problems with certain of these cards. So let's start with hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-hand combat has the exhaust tag, so you'll only be able to play it once per fight. You deal defense-based damage and then 2 crystallization. Crystallization means you get a, you could say, permanent 40% shield at the end of every turn, with each crystallization being worth 20% shield. The important note here is that it is both available for strikers and vanguards, but I wouldn't really recommend using it on strikers due to strikers not being geared towards defense-based damage, meaning this doesn't really do a whole lot, but this can be quite nice in more tanky comps, but it shouldn't be like a super great priority. If you have a bit more of a plan, sure, you can pick it up, but it's nothing too crazy. Then we have quick shelling. Quick shelling is a pretty straightforward card in that it deals 80 damage, costs nothing, and you draw one. So the card replaces itself with another card, which is then pretty much 83 damage. The only thing you need to be careful of is that this doesn't have the haste tag. So it's going to increase the enemy action count, but that's by far the only drawback you can find here, available on both hunters and rangers, and can be a boon to pick up, especially with godly epiphanies that could, or normal epiphanies that could range anywhere from a permanent morale gain to even more exotic effects like agony application. So there is a lot of options, but it's just a pretty solid card for dealing damage, mainly due to it replacing itself. Then Wander of the Void for 1 turn, target action count does not decrease. So my theory with this card is that at some point in the future it's going to be very, very important, but for now, I guess the only application I could really think of at the top of my head would be the first planet's second boss. He is like really focused on action counts and action count decreases. But this is a very specific card, and at some point you might want to farm a deck with it, but that part is not here, not now, not as of this moment, so it's a bit underwhelming. It kind of just takes up a bit of deck space. Then we have a very solid card in Energy Barrier, available to, again, fighters and vanguards. You play it once, you get a 100% shield, 1 AP, 0 cost. The only issue you would have here would be that it doesn't draw cards, so if you have it on your hand, yes, you do gain 1 AP, but your hand size goes down to 4. But there's still, again, epiphanies you could get there. Energy Barrier is always a solid pickup, especially in more AP-hungry teams, or even especially teams that aren't using Mika. Now, Iron Wall is a top tier card. So it has the Outbreak of War tag, meaning it's always going to start in your hand, and it is perfect for all of you that like to be safe and sound, that don't want to take any stress, that just kind of like the Kali playstyle, like the Magna playstyle, like the Maribel playstyle, and that is because this card is always going to be in your hand. You can also clone it multiple times, as with any of these cards, and what it does, it gives you 20% bigger shields and 20% damage reduction, and this can stack. So you could have 2 stacks of Fortitude and then 2 stacks of Morale, or up to 3 stacks and the like. So Iron Wall is definitely something you should be looking out for, and there can even be some more, epiphany shenanigans. So let's continue with Maneuvering Fire. So Maneuvering Fire starts in your hand, 200% AoE damage. Fantastic card if you're looking to auto farm, right? So if you really don't like playing the simulation game mode, find yourself a hunter, find yourself a ranger, and then just get a bunch of maneuvering fires in there, and then just have the AI play this out, right? It's a 0 cost card, it's in hand, it's gonna exhaust, so the AI is just gonna do the AoE damage, and you'll be able to kind of like shred these waves where there's like these 3 annoying grubs, should you be playing less of a AoE focused card. Otherwise, on the only difference here would be you would kind of have to hope for something that like is a bit more tangible, like morale or extra draw or AP on epiphanies here. Otherwise the card it's mainly, I don't know, I see it mainly as like a farming opportunity. Now, Ambush is a card that you can play to deal 80% damage and it goes into your graveyard. On Ravage translates to on break. If you break an enemy's tenacity bar, you get this card back in hand, so you can pretty much play it twice. It has nice comeback ability, can also scale because it's technically a 2-hitter should you break someone, and also you will then be able to use it against broken targets, so can be quite sweet, but honestly, it's a bit more gimmicky. You have stronger cards in your character's base kits, really. Then we have another card available to controllers and psionics that just deals 230% piercing damage. Piercing damage should be damage that either goes through shields or does more damage against shields. I'm not 100% on it, but overall it is very costly, and for that cost, again, either farming card, but it doesn't really yield the most return. Now, Camouflage, on the other hand, Camouflage is a nasty card. So what it does is you can play it once. It is pretty costly at 2, but it gives you 1 stack of evade. 1 stack of evade means you negate 1 instance of HP damage taken. So for example, if the boss is going to hit you for 500 damage, you get hit for nothing. If you have a shield and the boss just hits the shield, evade doesn't go away. But if there is like a multi-hitter or you take like a debuff or whatever, keep in mind it is pretty much a 1-hit immunity against any hit taken towards your health. And then you also get a draw too, so you pay 2 to become more tanky, to survive a turn longer, and then draw at the end. And trust me, there's some really nasty camouflage epiphanies. Like for example, I got one that gives 2 morale, right? Permanent 2 morale. You play it, you get 2 morale, you get 1 evade, and you draw 2 next turn. Now onto one of, if not the strongest of the neutral cards, we have Gearback. So Gearback has the exhaust and combo tax. The way this works is you play it once, it's gone, but you do not even have to play it, and that is due to combo. What combo says is you put this card into anybody's deck, and should any of the allies, so let's make an example, Mika, Ray, Kayron team, if you put it into Mika's deck, should either Ray or Kayron play a card, this card plays for free, replaces itself with 2 other cards, and then you still have multiple epiphany options to make this even more valuable, like gaining extra AP. This card is just overall, you see it, you pick it, you put it into Mika or any of your supports, or honestly anybody's deck, right? Psionic, whatever. You just take it. It is just that good. Gearback is almost a must-have instant buy the moment you see it. Then we have Tactical Action. This one is very specific to mostly the 4th planet, the 5th planet, and mostly fighting Justice enemies. Justice-based enemies, enemies with the water element, if you want to call it that, with the blue element, they usually tend to have shields, so having this from the beginning just is a 15% damage bonus for your whole team against these shielded enemies. Could come in relevant later down the line, but for now we don't need it. You can just deal more damage, but it can come in quite clutch, so it's at least good to keep in mind that this card does in fact exist. And then we have the strategic starting point, which you can just exhaust to give yourself 2 ego points. It really depends on how ego reliant you are, how many times you use the ego skill, but it is a sweet card. It's just most of the time you don't necessarily need it, so long as you manage your ego points well and go with full or a good amount of ego points into either elite fights or boss fights. Aimed fire is something I would not recommend at all, and that is, it is prohibitively expensive at 2, only works on rangers and hunters, has a 400% damage multiplier, which isn't that great because it's only single target for what you pay at 2. And now the biggest problem, defeat, 20 credits. This works if you break an enemy, right? Defeat, or I think even kill, like either you kill or you break an enemy and you get 20 credits. Credits are irrelevant outside of Chaos and the Zero system. You could technically use this to try and build more credits during a run, but then you would have to sell this card to ensure that it doesn't make it into the save data, because otherwise you kind of have like a dead space in there. Next up, Sacred Strike. Sacred Strike, pretty solid, pretty straightforward, works on pretty much all fighters, works on, yeah, basically even all tanks. Just keep in mind it's damage, not defense-based damage, so it's better on fighters or strikers, if you want to call them that. And yeah, it just does damage, and then you also deal tenacity damage. Tenacity damage refers to the bars, so there's bars below the enemies, and 1 tenacity bar is always a chunk of damage rather than a percentage of it, so you can take 2 chunks off. Can help you with break enemies and is particularly effective on a Mei Lin. Knowledge of Darkness, 2 important tags. 1, you can only use it once to fight, and 2, the ultimate tag. The ultimate tag has now been changed to Finale. It still means the same thing, but what this means is that if you play this card, your turn is over. So your goal with the Knowledge of Darkness is always going to be, you play your whole hand, then you play the Knowledge of Darkness, and Knowledge of Darkness requires forethought, and that is, you really want to know what is in your draw pile, and you kind of want to manipulate your draw pile in a way that you can guarantee pulling something useful with the Knowledge of Darkness, because it allows you to play that card for free, right? You pay 1 AP and you can then play that card for free. It could end up being a basic attack, and then it's kind of like, tough luck. Then we have 3 more right here, and that is Pulverize. So Pulverize is always attack effective, that is the attack weakness tag, so no matter where you take this card, you're always going to be able to be type effective, so Void against any other element would still be effective. 150% times 2, so benefits twice from damage boni, morale boni, any other damage increases, and also gives you 1 draw for 2 cost. Pretty sweet, can have some very nice epiphanies. It's overall just a solid card to just have in your arsenal, and can almost compete with like character exclusive unique cards in most cases. Recycling, if ego points are 2 or more, plus 1 AP, negative 2 ego points. I don't know, it's you could try playing ego point and the chess move. You give yourself 2 ego points, you remove yourself 2 ego points, and you get 1 AP, but honestly it's not really worth the struggle. And then Somnolent Fruit is again ultimate, so end of your turn, 1 exhaust, negative 5 stress. 5 stress is not enough. I do believe the stress bar should be out of 100, meaning you only remove 5% of a combatant's stress. And it's not really worth the investment. Maybe with like a crazy epiphany it could be something, but then again you could also just play a heal card instead, and the higher the heal, the higher the stress reduction through that heal, so stress is going to become hopefully less of a problem later down the line. Let's just go through some other cards I have unlocked here that we can see and I can talk about. And that is, for example, Overwhelm. Overwhelm just deals 100% times 3 to all enemies, so just 300% damage. Mainly, again, kind of like the same farming shenanigan card. And then 2 Overloads are just 2 cards that are useless in your deck, right? Useless in your deck, you would have to try to get rid of them. Otherwise, you have a kind of a bit of a duds in your in your hand. Then we have Skull Bash, 200% damage, and if you are effective, it's more damage. It's not the craziest amount of damage, it's not the craziest card, it's quite alright. This one, 200% damage, 2 vulnerable, 2 weaken, makes the enemy deal less damage, makes the enemy take more damage. Can be quite decent, but also keep in mind it is pretty expensive. Now this might just be the most goated card in the entire game, let me explain why. So, it has haste. So if you play this card, you do not reduce the enemy's action count. Then you draw 1, which means the card replaces itself. It does not have exhaust, meaning you can play this card multiple turns per fight. You can have it multiple turns in your deck. You can play it multiple times even per turn. And then you add 3 action count to all enemies. Action count is one of the... yeah, it's like... one of the major ways the game tries to implement mechanics. It's like, ooh, enemy action count reduces, this happens. Ooh, enemy takes an action before you act, ooh, this happens. This can shut it all down. Especially effective against that second boss on the first planet. A true no-brainer card with some fantastic upgrades, and it might even be worth it to put 2, 3, 4 rallies into your deck, because keep in mind, it replaces itself. It replaces itself, has an effect. This card is absolutely fantastic. Then we have the Wind of Relief. Honestly, I kinda wanted to make some use of it, get some shenanigans out with it on like a Charon, but most of the time you either have the Oath of Vanity active and then it doesn't work, or you don't take enough status ailment cards. It's like you only get this card if you want to prepare for a specific scenario for a fight in the future. Currently not needed, currently not on the menu, but it's good to keep in mind. So for example, you're like, oh, there is this boss that puts a bunch of status ailments into my hand, how do I deal with this? And then you just farm yourself a support that now has then the Wind of Relief card. Instinct Ignition, one of the weirdest cards you'll ever see, and that is, you play this upgrade card out, and should you create a card which should count for bullets, daggers, creation cards from Orlea, anything like that, futilities, you then grant a random epiphany to the created card. So you could play this on an Orlea and all of a sudden her summoned card might just give AP or draw one or apply vulnerable. It's a very funky card. It is pure RNG in a nutshell. And there's that. Now you might not see the description here, but Relentless Endurance is just a mega shield, right? It's a mega shield with retain, can be really, really useful for tank setups. Then let's see if there's anything else I can talk about that we haven't seen yet already. Not really. And then obviously never forget about monster cards, but we have a separate monster card video if you're interested in that. So yeah, I hope you again were able to take something away from this. Most important takeaway, gear back, rally are overpowered. Peace.